Hello and welcome back to another video in our first time homebuyer series. I'm Will with Hearthstone Home Group, All City Real Estate, and I'm here with Damian Squires with My Margo. And today we're going to bust probably one of the biggest myths that hold first time homebuyers back, which is I need a pile of cash, aka 20% down to buy my first home.
Yep.
And the reality of the situation is that there's programs out there, there's loan products out there that is just simply not a requirement. And a lot of times you're going to be getting into your first home for a lot less than 20% down. And today we're going to specifically talk about some of those first-time homebuyer programs that help you do that.
Yeah, I actually we were joking, off camera about this, but I did have someone come to me and say, do I need 20% down to buy a home? And, that is a 45-year ago problem. There have been products, FHA's been around for a number of years, products that require as little as 3.5% down. If you're fortunate, if you were, if you served our country and are a veteran, you have the ability to have a zero down payment loan, and we'll distinguish what that means and what that looks like. But there's also, and we'll dive into these, there's also community down payment assistance programs. There's state-sponsored down payment assistance programs. These will all allow you to put as much as nothing down, just like a VA loan would. They're great products out there. There's a trade-off, and we'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
But they're designed to help folks move into communities, and many of them are, based for our what we call a hometown hero. Teachers, nurses, first responders. Anybody that has chosen that path as a career, the communities want to award them and help them to become homeowners in that area. So, we look at some of the state-sponsored TDHCA, TSHAC, SETH. These are state-sponsored down payment assistance products, and they're great products. They can offer 3, 4, 5% in down payment assistance. So many times they'll not only cover your down payment, let's say a conventional 3% down, but they can also delve into helping with the closing cost as well. So great products, and I think it's just important that a potential buyer understands what the trade-off is on those.
Yeah, and I think another myth that we'll bust is that that's not free money. It's not free money, but it is money that's available that can help you get into your first home, where maybe without that program you wouldn't be able to do it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the the trade-off, right? Is if you're looking for a 3% down payment assistance, or a 4, or even a 5%, typically your interest rate can be higher. Now there are products that are very aggressive, and they don't have a higher interest rate, but they have a longer term as far as how long you have to stay in that property. There is a trade-off there. If you don't plan on staying in the property for the next 3 to 5 years, then it wouldn't make sense to do one of these, because you're going to have to pay those funds back. It would make sense to kind of look at other options, or potentially start saving and put a plan together so that you can, afford that without the down payment assistance if your long-term plan doesn't include staying there for a while.
And on that, can you just kind of give a high-level overview of, each one of the, to be very clear, each one of these programs is a little bit different. They all have, either a specific segment of the community that they serve, or their own specific purpose. But at a high level, they all are fairly similar with how they are structured and how they function.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a period of 3 to 5 years. So if you're not, and we used to call them city silents back in my first days as an originator, but they were in the form of a second lien. So it attaches to the closing, and whatever percentage you've chosen and gone with will sit on title on your deed for a period of whatever
Whatever the term is.
Yeah, and then and when you meet that, then it'll be released and you won't have to pay it. But if you sold it within that period, then you would have to pay back whatever you borrowed. And some of them have a reduction. There's as many nuances to them as there are to each product. There's as many products there are. There's a lot of them, and they all have their own little niches and nuances. Some of them have income limitations. So if you make above a certain amount, then you don't qualify for that. And a lot of times we'll see that because some of them are utilizing the total household income. So if your spouse works outside the home, if you have a roommate or an adult child that works, they're going to count that income. And so sometimes you may not qualify based on that household income. So it's important to sit down and determine those short, mid, and long-term goals. And how long you're going to be there is going to be a big one. And determine if this is a great product for you. We do several of these transactions, and our buyers are very educated on what their long-term benefit is from this. Many times there is a benefit. Sometimes there's not. So we really want to play that role of the educator when it comes down to these products.
Right. So. And so if you do have a little bit of money down, can you use one of these programs along with what you have to get more money down?
And yes, and you can utilize them for closing costs. You can utilize these funds for a number of different things. One of the benefits is one of the benefits of our current market, though, is that we're seeing a lot of seller concessions being offered. So you can utilize these for closing costs, but we just haven't seen as much in the last couple of years because our agents are able to negotiate closing costs on behalf of their buyers. So we're seeing a lot of areas where we'll put this side by side with, say, a 3.5% down FHA loan, and we'll put it next to a T-Shack with a 4% contribution. And one of the negatives is that the interest rate on a specific product can be higher.
Right.
When you look at the overall cost associated with the loan, and we calculate that out over the next 3 to 5 years, many times it makes more sense to
do the 3.5% down
doing
versus
a 3.5%
the 4%
down
with the T-Shack.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can utilize gift funds. You can talk to your CPA on what the effects on your 401k may be if you borrow. There's a lot of paths and opportunities for that down payment to be utilized in your own funds or gift funds that would outweigh what these are. But again, every situation is unique, just like everyone's wants and goals can be unique. This is something that you want to sit down with somebody who's educated in it and really discuss your goals.
Yeah, awesome. Damien, these programs are out there and they're fantastic when they're needed, but are there certain scenarios where it just doesn't make sense, or maybe a program like this wouldn't work for a first-time home buyer?
It's, as I said, there's so many nuances to each specific product that, there are situations that arise, and in many cases the client alongside of us just determines it's just not a good product, or that maybe they don't fit the guidelines for the product. One case would be income limitations. So when we talk about the overall income limitations on, how much the household can make, you have to be under a certain designation as far as income to qualify for these products. And in some cases, our especially our medical professionals and those specific to that that industry are not able to qualify because they make too much income. So again, I would say that it's paramount that you have these conversations with your mortgage professional, and we're happy to help and have these conversations on what those goals look like and where your income sits, so that we're not spinning our wheels and find out at the
Right.
after you're under contract.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the bottom line comes back to a lot of things. The bottom line comes out the way it does with a lot of things when it comes to buying your first home, which is there are a ton of options out there. As a first-time home buyer, don't expect to know everything.
Yeah.
That's where partnering with professionals, whether it be on the lending side or on the real estate side, will benefit you. And so, asking the questions and knowing who to go to is super important. And so Damien's information will be linked down below, so that if you do have questions about your specific situation, he can dive into the details with you. And when you're ready, I'd be more than happy to take you around, show you some houses, and find something that meets your needs. So thank you for watching, and to keep up with our First Time Homebuyer series, please like and subscribe, and we'll have more great information coming to you soon.
Thanks.